release.
The release form, it doesn't, we're recording. We've just literally started recording. Release forms are bullshit. I was getting them signed, right, up until a point. Why is that coming through my headphones weird? That's right.
Sounds right.
Up until a point, I interviewed Farage. And when I asked about it, he looked at me like I had two heads. And I looked further into it. And basically, simply by being on the interview with me now, you were consenting to it.
Yeah, but that's the interview bit. It wasn't the interview before when you were filming me picking my nose.
Oh, that's different, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, mate. That is
I won't put that anywhere.
Wank bank.
Right, what were we on about? Okay, so, right, first off, there's a bunch of issues. First off, treadmill. Why, right, you live in Wales, beautiful country, yeah. Obviously, Wrexham isn't the most beautiful part of it, right? But why aren't you running outside? Treadmill's bullshit.
Right, there's a few issues to address here, mate.
No, I do the issues. You do the responses.
First, I don't have kids. I probably have too much disposable income, for one thing. So, you know what happens when you get bored?
Shift that fucking chair out of the way.
When you get bored, you buy stuff, don't you? And at the end of the day, would you rather me buy a treadmill or... I don't know, something more destructive. So,
well, a ski machine.
Oh, mate, it just looked like you're wanking a couple of people off through the window. The neighbours will think that's like, no. So the reason I got a treadmill, mate, is very clear. Like the roads around mine, for tabbing and going off over actually on the mountain and stuff. I'm totally with you. I love that side of things, but one, can't run that far these days. Two, don't want to run that far these days. What I wanted the treadmill so that I've got the weights and everything at home. So I can jump off the weights, do sprints on the treadmill, that kind of thing.
They're not sprints. You're not doing sprints in the treadmill.
Oh, that's funny, mate. Because my heart and lungs felt like I was doing a sprint. They definitely felt like I was doing a sprint. All right? At the end of the day, I'm not trying to be Olympics, am I? Just trying to look good. Anyone on the camera right now, how am I looking? Pretty good. So, but no, mate, and here's a more important bit, mate. I enjoy it. So when I'm out on the roads, we've got narrow lanes by my house and stuff. Don't know what's coming behind me. Can't have music on. Constantly worried about standing in shit. It's not enjoyable, mate. And I want to be happy in my life. Why is it so big of a deal for you that I want to be happy? I'm finally happy. I got my treadmill. I had a great session before I come out here this morning. I was like, I'm going to do some... I even did some extra things so you and me can go and have dinner later on. And now you're throwing in my face.
Why you make it sound like it's an agreement we had as a couple? I moved some stuff around, darling, so we could have that dinner, that date night. No. Anyway.
Extra reps I did for you, mate.
Mate, you should have bought an airdyne bike or a ski machine.
One, I've already got a bike.
Go out and try... Right, your sprints that you're doing...
But no, mate, you're not understanding. Enjoy. What is it about enjoy? There's loads of other stuff I could do, which are probably better for me.
Why sprints, though? Why are you choosing sprints?
I just enjoy them, mate. I like doing them.
They're good outside. They're better outside.
But they're not good better outside, mate, because then there's cars everywhere. I can't have my tunes on. I definitely can't run in my underpants. Tried that. But right. I like it, mate. I like having everything. I like having everything in my little gym. I got my little gym, mate. I've got my in the corner. I've got my weight stack, and then I've got my kettlebells. I've got a power cage. Got my bar in there. I've got a bench. Everything's in there. It's my gym, and then I don't have to go out and get run over by some dickhead who's flying around the country lanes. So you want to go running, mate? You go running. Let me live my life. How about that?
I do sprints on those pitches there outside.
Well, you saw. Oh, so sorry, mate. So I'll move a rugby pitch. Move a rugby pitch next to my house, shall I? If I could buy a rugby pitch and have that next to my house, I would do, mate. I'm sorry, can't afford the rugby pitch yet, so I've got a treadmill.
Anyway, moving on. That's that issue addressed.
Not over.
What's wrong with government?
Fucking all up in your business, isn't they? A bit like you and me treadmill. It's like, well, mate, what's wrong with government? Basically, in theory, nothing wrong with government, except when they try and then come into your business and dictate to you how to live your life, and then when you don't agree with it, punish you for it.
Give me some specifics. What the issue is?
Well, I mean, it's a bunch of issues, isn't it? But essentially, mate, it comes down to there's a lot of different ways to live your life, right? A lot of different ways, and I think that the only person who has a right to decide what you're going to do with your life is yourself. And now, obviously, you're pulling a face at me there, but what I do in my life doesn't need to interfere with what's going on with you. You got kids and stuff, so I think obviously, you take on kids, you have a responsibility to your kids and stuff. I don't think you could just be like, well, and actually, or I should say this: I do think with rights come responsibility. So just because you can do certain things doesn't mean that you should do, right? So if we use COVID for an example, you know, I got ill recently with some kind of bug. Wasn't COVID, so I wouldn't have been breaking any rules to leave the house and go into public places. But I thought, well, this isn't COVID, but I still feel like shit. So you know what? I'll stay in the house. Don't go and spread it around. That wasn't any law that was telling me to do that. That was just, I don't want to be a dick to other people, you know? And I just think, mate, there's a lot of issues with government, mate. We could do podcasts after it, but the main one for me just comes down to, even if these people were saintly themselves and followed everything that they did themselves, I still wouldn't think that they had the right to tell another fucking adult how to live their life. But the fact is, they're not even they don't even live by their own stuff. They're not even, I would say, kind of moral people. You know, these are the people who, like, this is the group of people, the institutions. I know technically the knighthood that Tony Blair got isn't technically from the government, but it's all part of the same institutions. You know, here's a guy lies the country into a war, which has caused at least 183,000 civilian deaths up to this point. You know, oh yeah, we'll give him a knighthood. Can't even just let him go off in a corner and die quietly. You know, have to keep the wheels turning on this stuff. And I just think, mate, is it really too much to ask to just fuck off and leave me alone? Let me live my life. You go and live your life. And if we want to do business together, we'll do business together. And how about if we disagree on something? That's fine. We're allowed to have a disagreement. Just you're allowed to think differently to me. I just think, mate, this idea that another group of adults, just because they're wearing a suit and get together within each other in a certain building, that they get to tell other people what to do on threat of violence. And this is the kind of the crux of the issue is, it's one thing for a group of people to think that you should live your life a certain way, but all of this, we have to remember, everything that the government does is on the fact that they back everything up with violence. If you don't do what they say, they'll send the police round. What will the police use to get you to do what they want? They use violence. What is putting somebody in a prison against their will? It's violence. What is taking somebody out of their house against their will? What is closing?
What's the alternative? Hang on. Yeah, you're talking like these decisions have been put, like escalation of force there, have been put in place because that's a wanker thing to do. It's not.
No, I'm not saying they're wankers, mate. Right. I'm not saying they're wankers. And I do think a lot of this stuff comes from people with good intentions. It doesn't matter how good your intentions are. You have no fucking business in my business. That's it. So you might be acting with the best intentions. I might think right now, oh, you know what? There's some nice combat cigars over there. Plug, you're welcome. Some nice combat cigars over there. But you know what? I don't think Hugh should be around cigars, so I'm going to take those off him because I'm one grown man making a decision over another. It'd be ridiculous. Or like...
Hang on. You are blurring the boundaries between what's required as a society to function as a modern society. So do you think laws shouldn't exist?
I do think that... I'm not saying that all laws shouldn't exist, right? Because there are certain ones, right, I think we could, like most people would agree on. For instance, abuse of children. I think that's something that we could all come together with. But like I put a couple of polls up on my social media today because one of the things people always say is, well, got to keep drugs illegal or everyone would be doing them. Would they really? How many people do you know would be going, oh, the only reason I don't do heroin is because it's illegal? Because it's legal. Like you and me right now, if heroin or if crack was legal, instead of having a nice combat cigar, after we'd be having some combat crack pipe. We wouldn't be, would we? We're not going to go and have some crack after.
You should mention that. I hear that's in the pipeline. Combat cigar, the combat crack pipe. You're just waiting for the war on drugs to end.
But you're not going to do it, are you? Like, and even if someone wants to go and smoke crack, what the fuck shouldn't they? What's that got to do with you and me? You and me, mate, and this is the other thing. You and me have been in countries around the world shooting people for money. So the idea that you and me have any moral authority to tell anyone else how to live their life.
But right. What you seem to me to be doing is nitpicking valid issues with the law, for example, or the application of the law, or government, and that whole power structure, right? Nitpicking parts that are absolutely, like, I agree with you, especially on the drug side, I agree with you, are wrong. But then applying that broadly and saying things like they shouldn't have the power to come and tell you not to do what you want to do, when they should absolutely have the power to come and tell you not to do what you want to do if it falls within certain areas that are deemed to be not good for the greater good, society, people. Don't murder that person. Don't abuse that child. Don't steal that person's money.
But that's all. So all that stuff, mate. All of that stuff is aggression towards another person. So I'm not saying that you should like. One of the things I believe is obviously that whole kind of libertarian principle of the non-aggression principle. But if you're doing something and you aren't going out and hurting other people, I mean, obviously you shouldn't be allowed to go and rob other people. That's aggression. You shouldn't be allowed to go and beat up other people. It's aggression. You shouldn't be able to go and abuse kids. Aggression. You shouldn't be able to go and rape people. Aggression. But outside of that, and the other thing as well is, mate, why do we need a government? Because that's something that pretty much, you find me somebody that says they think it's all right for you to go around just beating people up. Or you find me someone that thinks they're all right to go around murdering people. That isn't something that we need somebody in Westminster to tell us is not all right. So they use that kind of framework, mate, and then, which most of us agree on, and then they put all this other stuff off the back there. So like the other day, I had to go and pay...
Hang on.
Well, go on then.
Hang on. Let's come back. Right. Oh. Ignore the word government, right? So it's a structure that it's come to be in place now through the way the UK has evolved. It's come to be in place now because of a need to have checks and balances in place for us to function as being society and business, right? If we don't need that, what is the alternative?
Well, and here's one of the things, mate. I'll say I don't have all the answers on this, but like I always say, I don't need to be a fireman to know that the house is on fire. I know that no, it's true though, mate. I think it's fine to say that, like, I can look up the stars and be amazed by the stars and not, but not understand everything about how the solar system works, right? Same as I can look at government and know that something's wrong with it and not say that I have all the answers. And this is something that I think I've started to be more interested in, but I'm not going to say that after 4 or 5 years of thinking this, I have any kind of answers to it. So even though I have some ideas in my head now that I could say to you off the top of my head, I don't feel that I know those through enough to be confident in saying that is the answer. All I know is that it is wrong for somebody who has never met me to think that they have any say in controlling my life, or anyone that's never met you to say that they have a right in controlling yours. I think it's wrong to extort money out of people because that's what taxes are. I haven't got a problem paying taxes voluntarily, but I do have a problem with extorting them out of people.
One of the examples of someone telling you that you can't do something, even though they've never met you, which is non-violent, for example, would be me committing fraud to you, fraudulently selling you something, bribing you, or blackmailing you. All right. Now,
I would argue that is a form of violence. Okay. I would argue that is a form of violence. It's theft, which I would argue is a form of violence. I think it's fair to say, mate,
when you're saying people who don't know you never met you should be not telling you.
Okay.
Are you specifically talking about lockdown?
No, that is an example. Yeah, but let's say, for instance, I'll tell you what. One of my favourite examples: Alan Turing, chemically castrated by the British government.
That was the 1940s.
But mate, but government is still government. So you're saying that that's different. That's only different now because now you and me, we have a different attitude on that. If we were sitting here, you'd be going, well, obviously the government's got a good reason for chemically castrating Alan Turing. You'd be saying that because that would be the norm of the era, right? So right now, one of them I'd say is lockdowns, as in forcing people's businesses to shut. That would be one.
What's wrong with that evolution of ideas, though? What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with it, mate? Is that people fucking suffer in the meantime, and they suffer for no reason.
Because what you do, what people like, I'm not disagreeing with the Alan Turing thing. Completely wrong, but those ideas were based on what we knew and understood at the time, right? And
no, they weren't what we knew, and they weren't what we knew.
Okay.
And this is the thing at the moment.
What were they based on then?
They are based off what a few people and a few organisations put out as the ideas of the time. And so, for instance, there's a lot of people out there right now and a lot of organisations who have a very strong case for. Well, I think one of the easiest ones to use an example would be like drug legality, which is kind of ridiculous when we say drugs anyway, because to put all drugs into like one bracket is ridiculous, in the first place. It's
you can drink alcohol, you can smoke, smoke a fag, but you can't smoke weed, you can't
exactly
do X, Y, Z.
Exactly.
Which are less harmful.
And also I'd say beneficial. I'd say there's a lot more benefits to doing MDMA than there is to drinking alcohol.
I mean, if I had my way, if I was in government, I would ban alcohol. I'm fucking telling you, I would ban it.
Well, I'd be against you banning alcohol, mate. Even though I kind of see where you're coming from with it, I definitely see the downsides of alcohol.
If I had the option in the current status, obviously I want to legalize everything. I mean, okay, in a choice between having alcohol and not, something had to be banned and something else didn't. It'd be like ban alcohol.
No, don't ban anything, mate. Stop banning stuff.
Ban it.
Stop banning stuff,
sorry,
mate.
I'm not in Parliament.
Let people have a choice. Let people have a choice, mate.
Right.
So I'd say that the drugs one is probably the good example, at the moment. And as I say, there's when we say drugs, it's really kind of ridiculous to put everything in the same kind of bracket. I forget where we're going with this now.
Well, you have to have governance, right? You're talking about the government being a problem. You have to have governance.
Why do you have to?
Hang on. I'm going to get there. Just hang on a minute.
Why?
Right? It's my fucking
Tell me
show.
why. Tell me why we have to have it.
You have to have governance,
Why?
okay? Fucking hell. Shut up. The problem at the moment is government is not functioning as it should. It is corrupt, okay? I think, and it's not just the British government, and it's not just the fucking Conservatives, Labour. It's all the same. It's a dirty, dirty industry. The same as it is in most Western democracies, right? Now, we have a system in place now which doesn't work. I think I talked to Gaz Welsh about this. We've got a system in place now which was needed years and years and years and years ago when we didn't have electronic communications, as one example, where we needed people to represent the interests of the town or the village or the constituency to go and take that opinion on X, Y, Z, whatever, to Parliament and represent the town. We don't need that anymore. You don't need a person to go and carry that message. You can do it in other ways. And also, money, capitalism, flicking everything else, social media has made it worse. Everything else means that more often than should be the case, which should never be the case, but what's happening is members of Parliament and people who aren't MPs, but want to be MPs, they misrepresent what the constituency think should happen. They do things, they make decisions and voice opinions in Parliament that are in line with what they want for themselves, not necessarily what the constituency wants, right? Now, the reason I say you need governance is if you remove all governance and go, okay, let's revert to, so one argument is, I've heard it said before, let's revert to natural law. Let's revert to the idea that people are inherently good. They understand inherently what is good and what is bad. Okay? Let's just say that is true at the moment. Okay? If you revert and go, and somehow you might manage to dial it all back some fucking how, and all of a sudden we haven't got governance. And you and me, guys, are living in a village, in a town somewhere, and we've got neighbours and all that. We've got our little allotments and fucking whatever. We're living as we are. Okay? That doesn't work.
Why not?
Because, well, one, distribution, resource distribution.
Well, but sorry, mate. I got to jump in. Why does resource distribution stop without government?
Because you have something I want. And
that's the case now, though. But why do we need? Why can that not be done through private entities? Why does that have to go through the government?
Okay, so let's peel it all back. We are sitting here in the UK with a lot of crops. We've got excess food in some types of food industries. We've got excess that we don't need. We've got surplus. We throw away fucking how much a day? And we know that there's a shortage of food in Africa, for example. Who decides who to take what from where and where it should go? Who decides it?
All right, one. Since when do we really give a fuck about helping out other countries? Like so that, as if that is the government. What our government does, mate, when it comes to other countries. No, hang on, mate. What our government comes to doing with other countries is invading other countries and fighting wars with other countries. That's what our government does with other countries. When it comes to, like what people have, if you've got land, if you've got crops or whatever like that, all that gets done through business, mate. Like there's no reason to have a government involved in that. Like, what do they come in and do? They put layers of regulation on, and you can make an argument that some of those layers are warranted. But then, whenever the government needs to create more jobs because it's trying to boost its numbers, boost its ratings. Right, well, we got to get more jobs so we can show that there's some kind of improvement in the job market. They'll go and add layers of bureaucracy to things. It gets harder and harder to get things done, which stifles. Sorry, mate, I'm struggling on the word here. Stifles what? Fucking hell. I would say kind of creativity and
innovation.
Innovation. Sorry, yeah, exactly, mate. It kind of stifles that, and I just think that this idea that you need government for things to get distributed and for businesses to work, I just don't buy that. You know,
well, in that example, if we're going to say that, if you're going to, let's say you haven't got government and businesses can organise, like, can self-regulate, right? Can self-regulate themselves, and we're talking about, they would run the country in that respect. Then you've got a bunch of organisations and corporations whose main intent is to make money, and all of a sudden at the top of the tree, you haven't got people who try and make money but haven't got all the access and ability to be able to do it, i.e. the people in government now. Then they do try, and they do. You've got all the people instead who actually absolutely can make money. They can exploit workers and exploit the system to line their own pockets.
So I think you and me have an ideological difference, because I think I agree with you, mate. Those companies will do that, but I also think that you also have an option then to opt out of supporting that company and supporting another one. You don't have an option of opting out of government, and that is my issue with government. It's this idea that you don't get a choice. Like right now, if I don't like the way that I got an Apple phone, if I don't like the way Apple do business, I don't have to use Apple anymore. Right, I can go and use a competitor and stuff. With government, mate, if you don't do as they say, you are going in a fucking cage.
Taking that forward a step, if there was no government and no regulations in place and there's self-regulation, you'd still have an Apple, except Apple wouldn't be restricted. They would be allowed to get a monopoly, which they've almost got anyway, but they haven't quite got one.
So what's the
and
government
if you go and buy if you were to go and, well, let's not use the example of a phone. Let's use the example of someone who provides an essential. Well, phones are arguably essential. If you didn't buy that or wanted to have that and wanted to use something else, you'd get restricted because you weren't buying what they wanted you to buy, and they run the country.
But that again, they have become essentially a government at that point, haven't they? But if for instance, so like let's say for once, I think the argument of monopolies is actually a really good one, because it goes to show that governments are fucking useless in this department anyway. Because if they were doing their jobs, we wouldn't have the Facebook monopoly, we wouldn't have the Amazon monopoly, we wouldn't have those. They would have been broken up. So that argument that the government would stop but
they've been caught. The whole world's been caught with their pants down how fast that technology developed and what social media did.
Doesn't matter, mate.
But
that's what happens, mate. So the idea is that's what you're there for. You didn't do your job in that case. So whether or not there's extenuating circumstances, and I think you've got a point that there is, still didn't do it. Whether or not whatever the rules is, still didn't do it. But what have they managed to do in that time? You know, and for instance, this is the reason I have a fucking massive issue with government, mate, because. Like, I agree with you, mate. I think if you had to say to me now, gun to my head, what do you think the system should be? I would think it's probably some form of minimal government, right? Where it's like people, you know, where it's the things that we can all really agree on. Like I said, your child abuses, things like that. That there is police forces, that there is taxes that you pay into that kind of thing, that there is, some kind of environmental agency. And I think there's a lot of things like that people would voluntarily contribute towards if you had the choice. Not everyone would, but again, let's be honest, mate, a lot of people already don't contribute in this country with the system what we have, right? And I think there's probably enough people that would contribute, because I do believe in the idea that most people do want to live in a harmonious society. Some people don't, and that's that. But you know, this idea that we give these people have so much power, and the other problem is as well, mate, is government and these big businesses are not separate. They are the same fucking thing at this point. These people, there's a revolving door between these people. They go from one company to the other, in and out of business. The people that give them the money, the people that back them, they are all one big. So the idea that there's a separate government entity, particularly in America, mate, which is just next level on it. Like, I do think Britain at least has some kind of checks on this stuff. But when you're looking at Britain, government, big business and government in America is one and the same. So the idea that they're kind of separate, you know, anyway, but it's also this, you know, we say like the checks and balances and stuff, and I agree with you, mate. I do think that there was some kind of benefit to having the system and stuff before, but we've seen now, like, where are the checks and balances? You know, and with these people in any other job, would they still be in their job if it wasn't if it wasn't a government job? No, none of them would be. And the idea that you have to keep.
What you mean?
So, like, let's say for instance that, let's just say for instance, if I find out that I've been going to like a local business for a while that I'm voluntarily choosing to go to, I'm voluntarily going to a business, or voluntarily doing some kind of voluntarily going to a local organization or something, and I find out that they've been lying to people and that they've been cheating on their wives and that they've been embezzling funds, I'm going to stop having anything to do with that organization, right?
Only if you know about it.
only if you know about it, but we do know about it. We do learn about this stuff. And the fact that it's like, okay, well, we're going to continue to put these rules on you whilst continually being caught breaking them ourselves. And also that when we're caught breaking them. So one of the things, I pulled this up the other day because it's one of my favorite. I just think, on this one is, we all probably know, a lot of the listeners listening, if you're ex-army, probably know someone that's got in trouble after the army and got sent down. So it might be someone might have got sent down for having a fight in a bar. Someone might have got sent down for selling a bit of drugs. You probably know someone. And you can make an argument that that's right. But then how do you square that with HSBC getting caught laundering 1.9 billion of cartel money and not one person does 1 day in jail? Why didn't they? Because they're protected by the government. They're protected by the lawmakers. So while I agree with you, mate, on the principle of things, I don't think that necessarily government is a bad idea on paper. The fact is right now we are run by essentially, as far as I'm concerned, organised criminals.
The problem is, I agree. So the problem is with it, there's too much, like we're talking about there is too much room for individuals to act nefariously and not in the interest of the country. What I think is that is where we inwardly focus, because whether you call that reform or something else, I don't know. But there was far too much margin for people to not act in the interests of the people. They act in the interests of themselves, and they should not be allowed to do that. Years and years and years ago, it was much more hard to do that. It was much more difficult, and it was much more motivation to do so. Now, it's just so much opportunity then that they go and do it. And plus, it's an indication of the wrong people in government. I'm generalising. Obviously, some decent people in there. I'm generalising, right? But that's where we should be looking at removing the opportunity to be a prick when you're in positions that are supposed to represent the people of the UK, because they pull their pants down every single day. I completely am on board with you. But what I don't think is that the actions of individuals, don't get me wrong, and there's multiple, tens, hundreds of cases all the time, right, of individuals in government being bellends, okay, across the spectrum, even with the opposition, right, across the spectrum. I don't think that's an indication necessarily that having a government is a bad thing. It's just occupied by too many rats.
Well, I agree with you there, mate, but I disagree on, because the problem is it only takes a few bad ones to change everything. And look, at the end of the day, like you can make a lot of positive arguments for government, but that to me doesn't take away from the fact that illegal wars, the war on drugs, the surveillance war against its own citizens, they might do a lot of good. Like, all right, great. There's a government organization that might come along and find someone if they're dumping some stuff in a local river. Okay, cool. That doesn't take away from the fact that you just killed 200,000 people in Iraq. That doesn't take away from the fact that you just took 5 years off a young lad's life because he wanted to smoke some weed. It doesn't take it, it does take into away that you just broke a family up, because you don't think that you have some problem with the way that they want to live their life, that you've decided is illegal. Meanwhile, your people who, so again, to pull it back to the war on drugs thing, for instance, let's say a young lad selling some drugs, he goes to prison, you just break that family up, you're probably going to ruin the kids' lives, you definitely ruin their childhoods, they're going to have all kinds of issues, they're probably going to pass on to their kid, and you're going to say, well, we got to do it, it's a war on drugs. All right, fine, why is anyone from HSBC going to prison over the laundering the money? Because you're full of fucking shit. And they are full of shit, mate. And, look at Iraq. They'll drag Brian Wood through the courts and people like Brian. And if he would have found guilty, he'd have gone to prison. Meanwhile, Tony Blair gets a fucking knighthood. They're a pack of fucking rats, mate. And while I agree with you that the system, it's like...
The system hasn't evolved to where it needs to be.
But the thing is, the problem is, mate, it's like... we look at governments and stuff in the past, and they might have served some purpose, but at the end of the day, it's fucking served a lot of misery as well, mate. They have served a lot of misery over the years, and that's just, I don't think you can have government without people abusing the power. So let's say for rights, for instance, like I said, with rights come responsibility. Some people are going to abuse their rights. So let's say we didn't have a lockdown. Some people are going to say, well, you know what? I don't really need to be going out and about. I'm going to stay in the house, and if I need to go out and get food, or if I need to go out, or if I'm feeling like my mental health is really suffering, I'm going to go and see one good mate, but we're going to make sure that we're keeping distance and all that. There's going to be some people who are just like, we're going to have a fucking party or whatever. But, well, one, those people are going to have a party anyway, because if you're somebody that thinks that way, it's probably not the fact that it's not lawful that's going to stop you doing it. I don't think many people, I think a lot of people were so scared with COVID that you didn't need to make it a rule to stay in their house. They would have done anyway. You fucking terrified people, you know. But I would much rather some idiot goes to see his mates and he overplays his individual rights than a government overplays its power and begins a fucking war that never needed to happen, or lock up thousands of people every year and break up families that never needed to happen. Someone somewhere is going to abuse the power. So I would much rather that be on an individual level than on a national level.
But you're going to have that abuse of power in any organisation, any structure whatsoever.
So let's not have it.
But going back, you can't not have... Right, just going back to your example, when we talked about not having government, you said leave the regulation could be left. And again, we're talking broadly here, we're not going to specifics, right? So I'm not saying, you said the business could fucking run the country, right? But...
No, but they don't... sorry, mate, I think you're misunderstanding me.
Okay.
I don't think particularly that we need a country to be run. I think that locally people will get shit done themselves and businesses will get it done themselves.
But the reason...
If it doesn't work, and here's the thing, right? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You had the chance to voluntarily go into something and decide for something. And personally, I would rather go down a system where it's like you have a choice, and if something doesn't work, it didn't fucking work, rather than what we have at the moment, which is, to me, doesn't work. And also, at the same time as it not working, we are also just ruining the lives of millions of people because of some fucking dickhead who is not held accountable for their own actions. Okay. That to me, mate, is like, it's the same with COVID, mate. Like, people say, oh, you think you have a great solution to it? Absolutely not. It's one of those things where it's like, there is no good solutions here. There's only least bad, right? As in, like, everything that's going to happen is going to have a horrible fucking downside to it. And I think that's one of the things that was always with COVID and stuff, mate, was one of the biggest lies, was this idea that kind of selling it, don't worry, we have a solution that's going to work out. It's like, no, you fucking don't. This is like, nature's not going to allow you to have a solution that works out for the best here. Somebody's fucking dying here. It's going to happen. People are going to die. So a lot of people are going to go through fucking suffering. But it's almost like, you look at the Second World War. A lot of people died. A lot of people suffered. And it was like, well, we're doing this because we think that these ideals of, freedom and rights and stuff are worth that suffering. Whereas what I think we've had over the last couple of years, thankfully it's turned around. Why is it turned around? Because fucking, again, they got caught with the fucking pants down. Let's be honest, mate. We wouldn't be ending restrictions right now unless these fuckers had been caught time and again breaking their own rules and were worried that they weren't going to get back into power. That's the only thing that's fucking changed anything. I think people need to remember that. Like, literally, it has taken the fact that they have been caught continuously lying for them to now start to make changes and allow businesses to open and make their own decisions is the important thing. If you want to have restrictions on customers coming into your business now, you can do, which is how it should have been all along. You should always have the right to make in your own business, make your own decisions. If you want to have a limited number of people in your business and all that kind of stuff, that should absolutely be your choice. You shouldn't be
in any circumstance.
What, businesses should get to make their own decisions
on who they serve?
On who they serve. I think yes and no, mate. Because I also think that the market then has a. So I see where you're going with this. So for instance, I think a good example of this is the gay wedding cake one. So you had that company who didn't want to serve. They didn't want to make a. They were a very religious couple.
But that. Yeah, go on.
So they're a very religious couple in America.
They got targeted.
Yeah, they did, mate. And there was this. I think there was a gay rights group, correct me if I'm wrong, who were going around basically trying all these businesses, trying to find someone that wouldn't make a gay wedding cake. And they found one. And this company got all kinds of shit. I think they actually got, legal action against them and everything. And I'm like, look, personally, if I was a baker, I'd make a gay wedding cake. But if a company doesn't want to make it, then they shouldn't be forced to. The same way as that I don't believe that they should be forced to, because at the end of the day, if enough people decide that those not to give them their business, then they'll go out of the business. The market will decide it. And I think it's a tough one, mate, because I do think in a lot of ways we are starting to see that naturally humans we segregate ourselves, don't we? We segregate ourselves into groups, into tribes. And there seems to be, like, if you think over the last few years, did you ever think you'd see people trying to segregate by race and stuff so much now. I kind of thought that we were past that. And I think in the UK, it's not so much of an issue. This is more of an American thing. But you've got like in America now that they are segregating classes and stuff by race again. And they're doing it for a different reason. But you're like, well, segregation. But I do think a lot of the time, mate, that there's always going to be companies that lag behind what the kind of general consensus is. But the difference with that gay baker is that gay baker who's not making the cake doesn't then come into my house and tell me how to live my life. And that is the difference with kind of the government and stuff. It's not the fact of it's like, again, you have, if you want that baker example, you can go and use different companies. I don't have a choice of opting in and out of a.
I've looked it up.
Have you? Go on, man. Oh, you're going to put it on the screen? Is this going to be the first thing on the screen?
Try it on the screen. It's not working. Right?
Oh, mate, brilliant. That'd be the first story ever on the screen.
Come on,
mate. We need this to happen.
Shit.
Mate, I think I had too much coffee. I'm fucking flying.
Right, I can't put it on the screen because the fucking phone's not connected.
Oh, mate,
right,
get it.
Listen to this. So we were on about them getting targeted. Okay. UK Supreme Court backs bakery that refused to make gay marriage cake. Judges find in favour of appeal, ruling there was no discrimination on grounds of sexual orientation. Listen to this. A Belfast bakery run by evangelical Christians was not obliged to make a cake emblazoned with the message, support gay marriage.
I thought you were going to say there was a massive cock on there or something.
No, but it's
big
like,
veiny cock.
Oh God, I'm not anti. I'm not. What you call it?
Yeah.
What you call it? Homophobic. That's right. I was going to say anti-homosexual. I'm not homophobic, but they went out targeting that.
I mean,
it's just what are you doing? You're just being a bellend.
They went to so many before that one. Apparently, I don't know if it's the exact. I seem to have the number 30 in my head. That it's like the 30th one. I'd probably just making that up. But the fact that they went around, you're like, well, you guys are dickheads for doing this. But yeah, I mean, I do think. If, like I said, if I own a bakery, like if I ever open a bakery, you're gay, come to me. You can have a business, or I'll have your business. But look, they are evangelical Christians. They believe in something that I don't believe in, but they have the right to believe that. And I think we need to start just fucking respecting other people's decisions.
It is a tough one, isn't it? It is a tough one, right? It is a tough one because I believe discrimination is a necessary thing, but only when it's necessary. So I shouldn't discriminate against someone who's a different skin color to me just because they've got a different skin color to me. I shouldn't discriminate. I shouldn't think any less of someone or treat them in a negative way because they like the same sex as them, and whereas other people and treat other people differently who like opposite sex, right? But in this case, it's religion. It's like literally what they believe, and they're obviously not bluffing. These are a religious couple. They're not bluffing. It's not like some hideous, depths of fucking Scotland like homophobic like 30-odd-year-old who's refused to serve a gay couple who've come in and then gone, oh yeah, it's my religion. Because people they pull those cards all the time, don't they? All of the time. It's not like that. These are
Well, it's like the thing with the mask, mate.
Though,
like, I really get annoyed with people that like they don't have a medical exemption and they're like, oh, I'm not wearing a mask. And then people say to them, put your mask on, oh, I've got a medical exemption. Look, if you don't want to wear a mask, just tell people I'm not wearing a fucking mask. But don't then bullshit saying, oh, it's a medical exemption.
It's avoiding confrontation, I think.
But it's not though, is it? Because everybody knows that this massive juiced out 250-pound bloke is not the reason he's not wearing a mask is not from a medical exemption. It's because he just don't want to wear one. So I just think like I don't like. We've had someone recently. I've been contacted by your boss and that because someone won't go into too much detail, but let's just say someone from my company is bluffing about some stuff that happened on tour to try and get a claim in. And now I'm all for people claiming something from the army if they do it. I'm all for that whatsoever. I think the stigma that we've put on people on that has been a deliberate thing that's been pushed to stop a lot of people claiming what they're entitled to. And if someone is listening to this right now and if you have been through difficulties or if you've got any injuries and stuff and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to claim because I'm taking it away from the boys, well, you're not. That money's there. You're entitled to it. If you need it to help you, go and get it. But on the other hand, fucking people that are just bluffing it to try and get some money, I think that's disgraceful. You know, I really do. And that's one of the problems that we've had with mental injuries and stuff, isn't it? Is one of the problems about getting it recognised is that we have to accept the fact that a lot of people do fucking bluff it. You know, and so I've just seen it right now.
I don't think a lot. I don't think it's a lot.
Well, when I say a lot, mate.
You know about mental health, yeah?
Yeah, when I say a lot, I mean, it happens regularly. I'm not saying that, like, if we looked at the percentage of people saying it, it would be like that higher percentage. But I think it's something that happens pretty regularly. I mean, I've certainly come across enough cases of it myself to know that a lot of people bluff it. And when I say bluff it, I'm saying that they're saying that they were in this incident when they never were.
Oh, really?
They were in this vehicle.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's not good.
They just flat out lying, mate, because they think that they're going to put a claim in and it's not going to get checked up on and stuff. So they're like, all right, and I was in this, and I was with him when he died, and I was with him when he died. And I just think that's fucking disgraceful, mate.
Coming back.
Sorry, mate.
Ignoring that.
This coffee's so good.
Ignoring that. Ignoring that. In fact, Jimmy Barnes, he listened to the podcast. Jimmy Barnes is your Costa.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Welsh boy lives in Croydon.
Oh, cheers, Bath.
No, lives in Abergawe. No, anyway, I digress. Coming back to government. So, what about police? What about the police? Do you agree with the police? Should we have police?
Right, this is a. Can we cue?
Ba-da-ba-ba-da.
Do I agree with the police, mate? Well, it depends what they're enforcing, doesn't it? At the end of the day, mate. Like, I think that, like we were saying earlier, I think most of us in the country would come together and agree that we want children to be protected. We want domestic violence to be there's some kind of force that will intervene in those kind of instances. That we want murders investigated. I think a lot of us will agree with that. Do we want the police used during lockdowns to go and find people who are going for a walk or kicking a football around? I don't think so. And from what the coppers that I've spoke to about this, they said that you have apparently British cops actually have a lot of discretion about how they act in a certain situation, and that, you know, in those instances of, say, a kid kicking a football around where they arrested them and fined them, they could have just told the kids to just pick the ball up and go home. They didn't have to follow through on that.
Well, I would imagine in those circumstances, come on. I would imagine in those circumstances, it wasn't the case. So if they went up and go, you're getting arrested.
No, mate.
Unless it was the umpteenth time.
So I knew plenty of people who got stopped. And this is, I'm not making this stuff up, but especially, and so this is one of the places where we saw, so like the last 2 years, we really saw the variety of forces that we have in the UK, because the experience from one force to another could be very different. So in North Wales and that, mate, they were basically just doing VCPs and just funneling everyone through VCPs, checking the papers and stuff. And it was like, you know, no, that's not how it works. You can't just stop fucking everybody and start searching papers and stuff. And they were basically overreaching in their kind of powers and what they could do. But they were just going out, people going for a walk, stopping people going for a walk, finding people, mate. And I'm just thinking, like, it's fucking disgrace, mate. Now, there's a lot of cops out there who do a great job. And I think I take my hat off to anybody that can deal with cases of child abuse and stuff, because I think it'd break most people, mate. And I think those are very special people that do that. But again, it's like any other thing, mate. We've got a finite amount of money. Have we ended all cases of child abuse in the UK?
Well, that's impossible.
It is impossible. But have we ended every possible case? Have we broken up every ring that can be broken up? Have we tracked down every image that's been used? Have we done as much as we possibly can? No, right?
Well, in the context of everything else that's going on.
No, but that's the thing, mate. So
maybe I don't know.
If we're not doing, if we haven't solved all these other things, why are we using, for instance, why are we sending out cops to patrol? Why are we sending to a car park in Snowdonia 20 cops to check people's papers and stuff?
Lockdown has really broken you, isn't it?
It has, mate. It has broken me, mate, because you know, I knew people took their own lives during lockdown. I know people who were lost their businesses. I know people who have made years of progress on their mental health and their relationships when it's all gone down the drain. And it has broken me, mate. And it's, you know, again, like, I'm all for this idea of, like, encourage people to stay at home, give people the information. Like, look, this is why it's fucking bad. This is why we need you to stay at home. This is why we need you to work at home. This is why we need you to forgo see people. But look, if you're struggling, go and see a mate. Yeah, like, and this is one of the things, again, mate, fucking pisses me off about these hypocritical fucks. They're having their parties and stuff. And look, mate, I get it. If you're in those positions of government and you're making all those decisions, I totally understand why you need to blow off steam. So I actually don't hold the fact that they had parties against them. I hold the fact that they were punishing other people for doing the same at the same time. You know, like people need to be able to have purpose in life. People need to be able to have community in life and relationships in life. And you're locking people down. You know, so many people, mate, as well. It's all right for like I'm really lucky, mate. I live in a nice place in the countryside. Lockdown for me, I'm not going to say it wasn't hard. It was, because I really enjoy being around other people and stuff, enjoy traveling and stuff, all that. You know, the traveling one obviously not so much of a thing, but not being around other people and seeing people, mate, it was really hard. And I started drinking way more, which is obviously a negative loop in itself, you know, all that stuff, mate. And I was trying to go through I was trying to do the fizz every day. I was doing all that. And I said this before, mate, and like, I genuinely think, if I hadn't gone through everything with PTSD, and if I hadn't gone through the therapy and stuff back then, if lockdown had happened 5 years ago, I'd not have made it through, mate. Absolutely no fucking chance. Because what got me through lockdown was my relationships with friends and stuff. And if I'd been cut off through that, and if I'd been going through that in the last 2 years, I'd be fucking gone, mate. Simple as that. And that's what happened to some people I know. And it's what's happened to a lot of people, mate. And then the number of new alcoholics that we've got, the number of new drug dependent people that we've got, you know, all of this stuff, mate, and it's like, look, again, you can say that there's a reason behind it, but to be punishing people, like trying to go out for a walk in the fresh air to keep their head on and stuff, is mental to me. It's absolutely disgraceful, and that I think is something that the country has agreed on, mate, because now, when this stuff, because a lot of people have sacrificed over the last 2 years, whether that sacrifice, some people have sacrificed their businesses, some people have sacrificed some sanity or relationships or whatever. And then we've got to this point now where you're like, oh, and while you were doing that, while you weren't going to your grandma's funeral, which some people, to be fair, probably just did want to get out of, so probably took a thing. But while you weren't doing that, they were having a fucking party. And that, mate, is why I think they've read the mood of the country now, because I think you can push British people a lot way. But when you've denied people the right to go and hold the hand of a dying loved one, and you're fucking dancing around on the floor with a fucking lady with a lightsaber, people are going to lose a patience very quickly. And that's why I think restrictions are coming to an end here, mate, because they're jumping before they're pushed, essentially. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. Also, the variant wasn't as fucking. I think ignore all the outrage over Christmas. Don't ignore it, but let's park that to one side at the minute with the parties outrage, those piss ups and that. I think if you push that aside and that hadn't happened, I think we would have been coming out not far anyway after this anyway, because as you quite rightly pointed out, you know, you can push us quite far, but you can't push us too fucking far. And I think that with the obvious data that came out about Omicron not being nowhere near as dodgy as the previous ones, and then you compound that with the kickback that was starting to happen about the last lockdown we had, and then compound that with the massive financial impact this has had on all of society, from the bottom to the top, to those flipping richest people in and out of government, the impact that's had. We're staring a massive recession in the face anyway. It's going to come. I reckon. I think they just made a sensible fucking decision, mate. They would have made the sensible decision anyway. Yeah. Now, yeah, I think they would have. They gambled. They gambled and it came off well. Scotland and Wales did not gamble well.
Mate, Scotland and Wales.
They were hoping. This is what pisses me off about that stuff, okay?
Cool.
They were hoping. So, what's her name in Scotland? What's her name?
Fucking haggis face muck ginger cunt.
And in Wales, they were basically hoping. They brought in those extra measures that wasn't recommended by the government. Mm-hmm. They brought in extra, in inverted commas, draconian measures. They brought them in. And they were hoping, they had to have been hoping, that it went pear-shaped in England. Omicron was a nightmare. Loads of people would have died for no fucking reason. They were hoping that 100%. That's why they did that. They were hoping that would happen. And when it hasn't happened, they've gone, oh fuck. Oh, fuck. Because they've just made themselves look like fools. Because they made decisions not based on the science that was being... the apparent science at the time is what the government was saying they were basing their stuff on. For once, made the right decision. Now, again, whether they made that correct decision, whatever reason they made it for, whatever motivations in there, they made the correct decision, right? But I go back to, with the way they are, go back to the whole government thing, with the way the Conservatives have been acting, especially at the top of the tree, and that sort of shocking role model behaviour that you see, it's the same for all parties. Like, what does annoy me about politics is, and people fail to see this, I think, like Joe Public, because they've got no, I don't know. I have the advantage. You have the advantage. We're forced to discuss these things because we do shit like podcasts. Are forced to think it through. It's almost like a what you call it, an affliction, right? Because it's stressful. I get stressed out. I get stressed out thinking this stuff through. Honestly, regularly. Like, oh my god, because my opinion changes from not left to right.
Which is good though. It's good.
Yeah, it is. It is good. It's bad. But what people seem to fail to see, they you hear it said all the time. They allow themselves to get polarized in various ways. The most old school way that happens in this country is blue red, is Labour Conservatives, completely polarized, right? And at the minute you got Conservatives in power, this is what happens. Labour turn around and go, ooh, problem. Ooh, they're outrageous, they're shocking. Look, they're all bullshit and they're making this money and X, Y, and Z. Terrible. We do a better job when we get in, right? Labour get in. They do exactly the same thing. Conservatives do exactly the same thing, and it all goes to a finger-pointing game again. Ooh, and which you need, because the opposition is a check and a balance, right? You need
should be.
Yeah, it should be. It's not at the minute, but it's not at the minute because fucking Labour's so fucking weak, and it shouldn't be. If you're a Conservative, you want strong Labour. If you're Labour, you want strong Conservative. If you're in power, that is what keeps the country on course, acting fucking responsibly. The problem is that the way opposition works at the moment, they aren't looking to make sure that the government are doing what they said they set out to do, like properly do it. They're looking for the headlines.
Yeah, of course.
They're looking for the headlines, and a lot of the time they're causing the fucking headlines and the leaks and all of that, and a lot of the time to the detriment of the company.
Yeah,
the company.
No, but it is like a it is like a company,
detriment of the country,
mate,
and this is what happens. I brought up my family, I'm pretty sure, voted Conservative when I was growing up. I don't remember who told me that. I just remember growing up. I'm pretty sure they were voting Conservative. Yeah. And people, it's like religion. You grow up into a religion, you're probably going to be that fucking religion. Yeah. You grow up in Conservative, you're probably going to be Conservative. I don't see myself as anything now. I literally look at it like, I refuse to be polarised. No fucking way. Because when you allow yourself to be polarised and put into a box, when you look across the fence at the other side, all you see is wrong. Even if there's right there, all you see is wrong, and and it's bullshit. It's a completely irrational way of thinking, and that means then when you go to the ballot box, the most important thing you can do, I think, and I didn't vote for years, right? And I'm coming back around to the idea of doing it. One of the most important things you can do when you go to the ballot box is put a vote in for the person you think aligns with how you think the country should be run. It doesn't matter whether they're blue or red or green or fucking yellow. It doesn't matter. I give an example of like when I sort of realised that kind of way of thinking. I can't remember how I came across it or I sent it. Maybe it got posted through the letterbox. Corbyn was leader of the opposition, and maybe a couple of years before he binned it. And I was looking through it. It was it was like abbreviation of the manifesto, and there was 8 or 9 bullets on there, bullet points. Most of them, I was like. That's bollocks. Don't agree with that. Yeah. And there was 2 of them, I can't remember specifically. There was 2 of them on there. I thought, yeah, I'm on board. And I fucking hate Corbyn for the reason most Asian forces fucking hate Corbyn, right?
Doesn't mean he hasn't got some.
And there were a couple of points on his thing, on his manifesto. I thought, yes, I am on board with that. I believe in that. That's correct. I didn't go and vote for him because most of he's fucking because it's Corbyn. Most of it is like bullshit. Yeah. But the point I'm making is,
he had a good
to
point.
the polarised person, they look at it and go. Yeah. Everything bullshit. They won't even read it. They won't even look at what the other side's talking about. You cannot you have to be open to the idea of change. It's not a bad thing to change your mind. It's okay. parties evolve, politics evolves, you evolve, your opinions evolve through life. To go through and say, I'm not changing my mind, ignorantly, arrogantly say, I'm not changing my mind for no one because this is my team and I'm there. It's all right with football teams. It ain't all right with life teams, like politics, like fucking black skin, white skin, like Christian people, Jewish people, atheist people, agnostic people. It's fucking bullshit. Yeah. It's bullshit. You can't do it. It's like that is like the baseline level of where nutters come from.
But mate, I agree with you though. But, mate, but this is the part of the problem with government, because I agree with you, mate. Like there's always something on the other side of the coin, right? So there is, for example, in government, there's reasons for government that are good reasons, but they don't act that way towards us. They have it's a very black and white thing for them. It's like, so they're not when you as an individual are looking at things now, you're like, oh well, what is the plus and the the downsides for them? But the way that a lot of things are put on us is, no, this is the law. And you're like, well, actually, I have a good reason why I need to do something that isn't within this law. No, you're going to fucking prison if you do it. There's no that philosophy is not applied to the way that the government interacts with you. And you kind of said, like as an accident, you said government, you said company, not country. But the government is a company, mate. The government is a company. People are career politicians. They come in there for a long time. A lot of people make a lot of money off the back of it. I think Tony Blair, some estimates of his net worth now, he's over 60 million. People say, well, that's from speaking gigs. Why has he got those speaking gigs? Because of the favors he did for people. He's getting paid 300 grand to go up and talk for 20 minutes at a bank that he squared away with a fucking contract. Look, if you don't think that that's fucking backhanded bribes, then, I got a bridge to sell you, which is apparently a saying. I have no idea what it means. but that's the fact. The graft is a thing. Backhanders are a thing. Favors are a thing. You're going to square me away with a combat cigar later because you're my mate. If I was in government, I say this all the time. If I was in government, I'd be squaring all my mates away with PPE contracts. So if you want to get me in, just saying, if Johnny Mercer's got a job, he wants to get me in there, I'd be squaring everyone away. So I'm not saying that you and me wouldn't be doing it, because it's human nature that you help your mates out. That's how things go. But it is run like a country, and it is, and that's part of the problem, mate. With to bring it onto the parties, like you were saying, one party doesn't drastically want to change things because they both benefit from it. They're all in there. They're all employed. They don't want to make massive differences to. If you put somebody into a certain system, mate, we were both, you and I were both in a very strict hierarchical system in the army, right? And you can make arguments that exists. But when you're in that system, you don't want to disrupt that system, because once you're a Lance Jack, you don't want to go and change the way that the system works, because now you get to have benefits of being a Lance Jack or whatever. And it's the same with politics, mate. In America, the Republicans and Democrats, they do a lot of shouting and talking, but neither of them drastically change things up, because that would be to the detriment of their own party as well.
They also tie themselves in knots. So, for example, the screaming and shouting that one party will do about another party, it also causes, fucking hell, ignore the polarization. It just causes an inability to have a proper discussion and investigation into what's going on, why is it like this? Like all this stuff we're talking about here, it's not that government shouldn't exist, right? It's that the way government is governed right now is incorrect. It does not work. It worked at one point, it has not evolved where it needs to be. Like going back to
it worked. Sorry, mate, I just got to say, it worked for some people. So let's say, for instance, American government in the 40s worked for some people, didn't work if you're a black person living in the South. Pretty fucking bad for you.
No, but that's an example of progress and moving forward.
It is and it isn't, mate. Because there's always a group of people that the government is oppressing in its own country or in other countries. That's how governments work. They are always oppressing somebody at some point.
Well, who's it now in the UK? Who's it now in the UK?
How's it now in the UK? Mate, anybody doesn't follow the laws that the government say. If you don't follow the laws that they say, and this is, again, and you were saying earlier, mate, about corporations, about, hang on, I got to stop, I got to chill out on this stuff. It makes me so fucking angry, mate, because they literally, they literally go around, ruin people's lives and just get away with it.
Yeah, but they're not targeting a group. They're not targeting a group
of people.
On, chill out. They're not targeting a group of people. They're saying, if you break the law, then you're going to get targeted. No.
But yeah. But they're saying, so those laws, one, who do they really apply to? Mostly poor people. because most things in the UK, if you've got money, you get away with them. Same in America, same in most Western countries. Again, all I have to do, use that HSBC example, mate. I mean, I'm just using one example because I just think it paints it so well. If you are tied into that kind of top end of things, if you've got the good lawyers, you're not going to do any fucking time in prison. Look at Prince Andrew now, fucking nonce. He's not. He's apparently, allegedly, But if that was a lot of people, mate, actually that's not true because we hardly fucking penalise nonces. But it's true though, mate. You're laughing, mate. But like I have people.
I'm laughing at you.
But I have friends,
Should've had
mate.
some coffee.
I have friends who the person that sexually abused them when they were a kid did less time in prison than the amount of time that they sexually abused someone for. That kind of stuff happens, mate. And those are laws that we could all probably agree to. But then I've got mates. I know people, mate, who have been sent down to prison for selling a few grams of coke to their mates. And they've been put away for years for that. And you can say, oh, well, they broke the law. Whose law? For one, fucking know that a bunch of politicians stuck that shit up their nose. We know that. We know that, like, if you go to like the city in London, as in like the city, the financial district.
Politicians are just people, right?
They are people, mate. Exactly. So why should they have the right to put people in a fucking cage because they made a different decision in their life to them? It's insane. Some of
the laws are wrong.
But the fact
right?
that this is sorry, mate. I just want to finish my point. No, my point was right. No, my point was because you mentioned like, well, what about these companies? Blah blah blah. I agree with you. Like companies could get monopoly, but right now Amazon ain't coming to my house and putting me in fucking prison if I don't do what Amazon say. And that's what the government do, mate. We have to remember that at the end of the day, for the government is essentially a fucking gang. It's a gang. It extorts people, and anyone that doesn't go along with what they say, like if you go along with everything they say, yeah, you'll be laughing. But if you don't, you will have violence used against you, and that's not right. It's just not right, mate. Like that to me is totally immoral. The idea of using violence against someone else to get your way, I just think is totally immoral. And I'm speaking as somebody who has been a part of this immoral, system himself. And to be honest, done pretty well out of it. So, but this is what I'm saying, mate. I'm not any different to these people, and I think that's part of the thing is understanding, like you said, that politicians are just people. Yeah, they are. We shouldn't give people fucking power because it always ends badly.
How do you change it then?
It's one other thing, mate. I honestly don't think you can. I think we can change little bits, but like you said, like, do things really get rolled back? Like, look at America, mate. 9/11 happens. Right, hang on, we need the Patriot Act. Bring the Patriot Act in. Right, terrorism is not really an issue anymore. Can we stop spying on our own citizens now? No, we're going to keep the Patriot Act. And then we're going to add some more stuff to it, and some more stuff, and some more stuff. And if you speak out against us, like Julian Assange, we're going to put you in prison forever. Like, that's the other thing as well, mate. You and me, right? God, like, and again, I think you can make a good argument for this. We have to be transparent with our tax returns, put our money in, all that kind of stuff. All right, cool. Can we have transparency from the government about what you're up to? Oh no. Can't have that. And if you do, you go to prison. If you do whistleblowing things, and again, it's more an American problem, but that's kind of how governments operate, mate. It's a very one-way street, If you blow the
but we're miles away from the US are.
We are, but don't forget. No, don't forget though, mate. After that Hancock thing happened, they have been trying to bring in. I don't know how successful they've been with it, but they have been trying to bring in more laws to basically. They went hard after the whistleblowers who released that Matt Hancock.
Yeah, but that's CCTV footage, right?
But it doesn't matter, mate. It's in the public interest. If he is going around making decisions on people's lives, that is in the public interest, and they have every right to release that footage.
But the problem there, guys, in that example, I'm not saying Matt Hancock's a decent bloke. I'm saying, looking at that CCTV footage released from inside the heart of the place that runs the fucking country, right?
Where they are breaking their own rules.
Hang on. Fucking chill out. Like, just pretend you don't want coffee, right? The point I'm making is, if you say, okay, that should be acceptable if it's in the public interest, it's too much of a grey area. Because do you know what happens? Shit that shouldn't get leaked ends up getting leaked, and it becomes a security issue because there's no one to make the choice.
Mate, you know what else?
So what happens is you put the rule in place. It would prevent stuff getting leaked that shouldn't be leaked, but also, well, I don't know how you get around it.
But you know what else is a grey issue? Grey issue. Don't leave your house. close your business, lose your business. I'm sorry, mate. The idea of, because it's in their place of business, they have no problem going in other people's places of business, shutting their fucking businesses down. So why the fuck should we get to go? Can we talk about something other than politics, mate? Stuff does my head in.
What are you writing at the minute?
How to hang politicians.
Do you know what I'm reading?
Listen to this.
Did we talk about this in the toilet earlier? I'm reading about Soviet Russia. It's relevant, yeah. So.
Oh yeah, I bet it is.
Mate,
Comrade Gear.
Well, no. Do you know why I started? Because it was when all the woke arguments, again, on both sides, I'm not saying woke people are dog shit or not. I'm not saying that, right? But there was things getting thrown up like, oh, fascism and communism and fucking blah blah, comrade, blah blah blah. And I have no clue about all that stuff. I didn't have. And I went and I've been reading Stalin. They're reading that in a Kindle.
I can tell.
Mate.
Big government fan here.
Reading Stalin and then audiobook in an abridged version of the Gulag Archipelago.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty scary, isn't it?
Mate. And depressing. But what's interesting, I didn't intend to do those two at the same time alongside each other. Fascinating. But I was reading Stalin and I thought, and it's literally about his life from when he was a boy all the way through. And this is from archives that were released in the 90s about him, right?
So it's about biography, is it?
Of sorts.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, when Stalin was in power, he basically, when he was in power, he censored a load of his own background. He didn't want people knowing. Like, he was a mega poet. Well, I say mega poet. He was a capable poet, for example. He's a very capable writer. And just as two examples, well, he censored all this stuff, and he was fucking Georgian, mate. He wasn't even Russian; he was Georgian. So he censored all this stuff to protect his identity of what he was to the Soviet people, because obviously Soviet Russia wasn't just Russians; it was a load of people. Right, and then when he came out of power, the Kremlin censored fucking everything. They're like, lock all that shit down. We don't want anyone to find out about all this. In the 90s, all got released. And then since the 90s, there's been different people, and they've gone and done different biographies about him. Lots of different languages. Anyway, it's one I'm reading, supposedly supposed to be the best one, by a guy called Robert Service. And mate, it is mega. It is mega. I was reading it, and I thought, I wonder if I'm going to get to a point in this book and see any similarities. What's going on now in terms of communism, Marxism, and what's going on now in the early stages, mate. 17 pages in, and I closed the book.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, there it is.
What in terms of communism compared to
the early stages? So the thing is, what you can't say is, because there's similarities in society and well, in the UK now, or in the world now, actually, Western world now, and they're things that are very similar to what happened at the start of communism. That doesn't mean that we're going to do fucking communism.
Yeah,
they're just common things. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
It's like you've got depression and anxiety, or you got PTSD. No.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway, the things were right at the start. Okay, right at the start. They were the young Marxists, Stalin, other people, obviously fucking Lenin, people like that. They were basically trying to rally the proletariat, the working class. They were trying to rally them to get some fire inside them and rebel against Tsarist Russia, Imperial Russia. And one of the ways they would do it, as an example, is they would go and they would get them to organise protests and sow discontent at the places of work because of the working conditions, or because of they didn't like the way that they were being treated by their bosses. But most of it was not like anything crazy bad. But just as an example, I mean, that's a terrible example. It was a bunch of shit anyway. I read the book. I was like, fucking hell, that's fucking terrible. And so in propaganda, bullshit, misinformation was a classic in there. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And then it rolls on, and they went to this idea of, I mean, it comes back to not having governance, right? It comes back to that. So if you have this aspiration, I'm not saying you. Sorry.
But yeah, but I was going to say, but like they never removed governance; they just replaced it with a different governance.
But on the pretense that there wasn't going to be governance, right? So it's like
Is that how they sold it?
It was going to be a classless society, right?
But
And there were
I don't
people
think
who-
they. I don't think they. It was going to be a governmentless, classless society.
No,
though,
but
was it?
no. But just hang on, let me finish.
Sorry.
It was going to be a classless society, right? And they put the power in the hands of the proletariat, the working class, and the working class would run the country. Yeah, all of the resources and that would be shared amongst them, and government would control business. They would control output production. They control exports. They control imports. All of that, and everyone would be equal. But exactly as you and people bought into that. Yes. We're going to be equal. There's going to be no more. There's going to be no more. What are they called? Bourgeoisie. There's going to be no more wealthy people. All the wealth will be shared. Blah 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 blah. And which is aspirations of many people.
That's
now.
not what I'm saying.
I'm not. I know you're not
All right,
saying
cool.
that. I know that you're saying that. But on the surface of it, people, you can say, "Oh my God, wouldn't it be great if all the wealth was shared?" And wealthy people, they have fucking no place. It shouldn't be people with crazy amounts of wealth. Everyone should have equally. Everyone should have the same opportunity, the same access to shit. Everyone should be treated equal. Well, it's impossible. So in the example of Soviet Russia, they went for that class of society. But like you said, you have to have class. There has to be a ruling there, and you have levels. It's just all they did in Russia. They changed the names of them. Everyone became the proletariat. And then within the proletariat, you had the Politburo, and you had basically the Soviet government, the head, the main Soviet government, and you had the Soviets, the council split around, right? Yeah. But all he did was change the names. Stalin was loaded. The Politburo, none of them lived like they didn't share their wealth equally. They lived in massive fucking houses. They didn't do like the kind of work that other people do. They didn't have on the agricultural side. Not this coffee is strong. What do I? They didn't have to go and work on farms and work on a farm for 12 hours. Take all their grain in, right, and then have to give 70% of it to government, keep 30% for their little village. Didn't have to do that. They were at the top. All they did was rename it. They weren't the elite anymore because they'd renamed it. Yeah. And it's just bluff in place until it was an uprising again. How did I come on to that?
But I just say, but that is why when you talk about stuff like that, mate, I'm very wary when governments start using terms like greater good and all that kind of thing, because that's usually a thing. That's usually a term for we're going to take some shit off you. And we need an excuse, so we're going to say greater good. And we're either talking money and we're talking rights or whatever. But greater good is a very dangerous, kind of term, even though I think it's something that we all kind of most of us agree to, right? But when it's in the hands of politicians, I do disagree with it. You mentioned the misinformation and lies and stuff like that, mate. And I think that, to me, mate, over the last couple of years has been the biggest worry. Like, for me, I think the truth is important, mate. And I also think that the truth is powerful. And I think that when you tell people the truth, if the truth is something that is compelling, people will usually act on it. Not always, but a lot of the time. And I think one of my issues, with power over the last couple of years has been lies. Lies, misinformation, stifling of truth, stifling of conversation. First and foremost, like I've always said, if you are that certain that what you're saying is correct, then why wouldn't you have that conversation, with somebody? Why do you feel the need to shut it down? Even if you are correct, why would you not have that conversation? And the other thing I think is important as well, mate, is like, you asked me earlier, well, how should we do it? And I don't have the answer for you, mate. And the reason I think that's important, I think it's important to be able to say, I don't have the answer right now. So, like, right now, as a country, I think if most people probably think that things aren't working properly. And the reason I think it's so important for us to get this right is because if not, it might be 50, 60 years down the line. But what happens is you get a revolution. And then when you have a revolution, everything goes to shit because you still have the same problems you had before, like distribution and healthcare, or well, not necessarily I say healthcare, but people still have medical issues. People still have law and order issues, all that stuff. That also exists. But when you have a revolution, you're usually just replacing people who were professional with amateurs. People don't know how the systems work. That's why you always have, like, in communist countries, you have famine and things like that because people take over these systems. Those people fucking end up dying because they fuck up the food distribution and the essentially the cycles. And I think that, like, we need to be having the conversations about, right, what isn't working so that we can change it over time. because what's going to happen otherwise is eventually this stuff will keep building, and then one day the whole fucking deck of cards is going to fucking come down. And you don't think that'll happen, mate, because you've lived and grown up in Britain. It's a stable country, but I'm telling you, mate, as someone who studied,
I didn't say that. No.
Well, your eyes said it, mate.
No.
But as someone well, things always been history, mate. You look at it and you're like, oh, same thing. Build, collapse. Build, collapse. Don't have to be like that. We can get ahead of the problems and just be like, look, this isn't working right now. This isn't working right now. Let's get a few, maybe even decades ahead of the problem. Let's start solving some of these issues. But as you were saying earlier, mate, with the teams that, one, they're career politicians, two, they're on teams. There's no drive with that lot to be like, right, let's reform ourselves. Let's, actually make some changes.
We don't have to, because they're not accountable for their actions.
Exactly, mate. That's a massive. But that should be one of the first things that comes into it, is accountability. Now, you just think as an individual, mate. Like, you've got kids, right? Now, you have to balance, like, obviously living your life with giving your kids rules and everything like that. But if you were smoking and drinking every day, would you have any kind of right to tell your kids, don't be smoking and drinking when you grow up? Or would you, or should you, well, maybe the better question is, would you expect them to listen?
I'd have the right to tell them.
You'd have the right to tell them, but would they listen? They're going to be like, oh, Dad, we've seen you smoking and drinking.
Maybe not.
Yeah, all the time. And I think in this country, mate, until you can't ask and you can't make people be accountable for stuff when you're not yourself. Like, that's just such a basic leadership thing that, like, why would anybody listen to somebody that's saying, right, you need to do this for the greater good, you need to do that for the greater good? But
mate, we're gonna have to wrap this up in a minute, mate. But you're talking like almost like we're infallible. Again, to the point, the human beings there, they can't be perfect, and that is not me excusing their actions, by the way. That is
exactly why they need to be limited in power, mate. Because I totally agree with you. They are people. They're gonna fuck up, and I don't want that fuck up to be an Iraq invasion.
Well, there is the checks and balances in place. We need to look at removing the opportunity for behaviour that isn't in the interests of the people, not representing the people on the MP level, right? And then I think we also need to improve the quality of the people that sit in government. Plug for campaign forces. Johnny Ball. You're a campaign force?
No, I'm plugging Combat Cigars today, mate. You're gonna have to give me some money if you want me to plug it in.
No, you wear a campaign force.
I'm not. Actually, yeah, I am. Yeah.
It's Johnny Ball, ex-Mill, and he's trying to make politics more accessible for military because he thinks we should have more people like Dan Jarvis in government, more people like Johnny Mercer in government, depending on your opinion of them.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard
and Tobias Elwood, and there's a bunch of others.
Yeah. So my thing, mate, is I just think at the moment we're feeding good people into a bad system. I think the system needs to change, and I don't know if you can do that.
I agree.
Like, I don't want to speak for all these people, but from what I've heard, you can't get shit changed in the middle of that. Like that, we had Tulsi Gabbard, on Veteran State of Mind and stuff. She dropped out of politics. I think you and me were both agreed that she was our favourite candidate.
America again, right? For people not.
Yeah. Sorry. I switched. I spend a lot of time between the two, so I switch a lot. My head's between the two of them, and I do think so goes America, so goes the world in a lot of ways. But she dropped out of politics after that, and I'm just thinking, like, she would have been.
Has she binned it now?
Well, she's still involved in it, but she's not a congresswoman anymore.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that's the problem. Is like,
explain who Tulsi Gabbard is.
So she was a Democratic nominee for president, and I'm like you, mate. I go.
But background.
So a background veteran, congresswoman. Very kind of like bipartisan, happy to work on either side. Very America, like pro. Very, I would say, pro-human, but at the same time wanted America to end the foreign wars. By no means a pacifist. All for kind of defending America's strong military and stuff, but not going out.
And she wouldn't. And on a journey up the political ladder, she wouldn't take large donations from organisations, corporations, individuals. Mm-hmm. Who would then expect to have power over what she said and did.
She had integrity.
Really interesting.
Yeah. And, I go back and forth on which, or I used to. Now I just think I just kind of given up on the whole thing. That, but I usually be like Republican candidates. But with her, I was like, oh, definitely, kind of back her and stuff. And I just don't think... Like, and look, mate, at the end of the day, when I'm talking about this stuff, it is pretty much all pie in the sky. I do genuinely believe that we could exist in a basically with some form of very, very minimal government.
We existed like that once, mind you. We existed like that once. We existed like that. We existed without any government, without any councils, without any of that. We existed. And we're here because we needed more checks and balances. We needed more regulation. We need more laws because people are fucking assholes. Regardless of what you think.
But where's the checks
someone
and
will come
balances,
along
mate?
and
That's the
rape
thing.
your wife. With no law, with no regulations, with no government, nothing like that. Someone will come along.
So you saying, mate, are you saying in order for me
Maybe
to
rape
not
your
have
wife
someone
would
to come, are you saying in order for someone not to come along and rape my wife, we have to go to war in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya and all these places?
That's different.
No, but it isn't different though, mate. Because I agree with you that we probably do need some kind of local police force and stuff. But why can't you have a local police force and then you don't at the same time? So like, let's say for you and me, we live in our town of, we live in Kia Town, right? And we have a police force that we all pay into, like, because right now your council tax you're paying into your police. Why can't we pay into the police and then say, right, this is what we want enforced in our area. We want you to concentrate on these kind of crimes, these violent crimes, especially. We want you to, we want you to, I don't know, maybe some people.
Who decides
The
what?
fucking local area, mate.
But who decides? You can't. So how do you come to a decision about what you want the police to focus on? Just practically now. Okay, I'm telling honestly, you've got this situation. It's Kia Town. You've got a local police force that we all donate to.
Yes.
Now, how does the town decide on what the police force should be the number one
They're
priority?
talking to each other and deciding on it.
But my view is going to be the same as yours. If
But
my
no,
shop
but
got burgled,
this is the thing, mate. Right? This is what the idea. Because we at the end of the day always need to come to compromises and come to decisions
But it
together
doesn't
as
happen.
people. But why doesn't it happen though, mate?
because conflict. Because listen, again, on the baseline level, that example, okay. And again, we're not saying this is the way it should be done, but fucking on that example, you say, right, we should focus on paedophilia because that is the number one problem. I'm
just using that as an example because we all agree. Because we all agree on it.
My X, Y, or Z relation got molested by a paedophile. It's growing in this area. I want to concentrate on the police. Okay, what do you reckon? I come along and go, negative Ghost Rider. I want murder focused on because X, Y, Z.
What, mate? You're not going to have to choose between paedophilia and murder, are you?
But 2 seconds. No, but I'm highlighting the point. The point I'm making is if you leave a bunch of people to try and govern themselves like that, it doesn't work. Because what? So hang on. So you go. There's conflict because we disagree. At that level, such emotional stuff, I disagree. No, I want the police to concentrate on this, and you say no, I want the police to concentrate on this. And how does everyone else? No one's going to choose one or the other.
So the reason I'm going to disagree because I think you get my point wrong. What I'm saying is,
Okay, right.
at the end of the day, there are some things we're all going to agree on: rape, murders, all that. Everyone's going to agree on.
We chose
this.
a focus area talking about.
But no. This is the difference. So what we're going to say is, like, we don't want cops in our local area to put. If you see someone with a broken light, we don't want you to pull that person over, right? And fucking find that person. This is our local area. If you see a person with a broken light, pull them over, let them know that the light's out, and that's it. That's as far as it goes. We don't want you. And then you might decide, but we do want you to enforce if somebody's driving past a school at such a speed. But there's certain things, mate, that are not in the things that we would not all choose to do, right? And that's the problem at the moment is we don't have any choice in this stuff. So you might have an area again. The drugs is just a very I tell you what, let's use a different one, for example. We might decide in our town, look, if two young lads get in a fight in a bar and that they both agree that, like, you know what, we were both just drunk, we were starting a fight, boys being boys, we might decide, yeah, we don't want those people to get sent to fucking prison over that. We don't want them to be taken away from their families. We don't want their careers to be ruined. But where's our choice in this stuff, mate? We don't get any. And that's the fucking problem, mate. It's not that there isn't some things that we all, agree on. It's not that there's going to be some things that some people don't. It's that we have no choice. Right now, there is no... Where do we get a choice in this stuff?
Of course we have a choice.
Where is the choice? Where right now can I go and say, or where right now can I have a choice in the UK and say that I don't want an 18-year-old that has a fight in a bar to go to prison? Where is that choice
you mean
for anyone?
In an area, for example?
Where in the UK does that not happen?
For that example, it doesn't work.
Okay, where in the UK?
It's not fair,
where in the UK can I say that somebody that sells some weed to somebody that wants some weed, where does that person not go to prison in the UK?
Hang on. It doesn't work, guys.
Why does it not work? Why?
This is why, mate. This is why. On a practical level, let's say in this town, yeah, you sell weed and you don't get to go to prison for it. Another town, you do. I go out, I go to the other town, I get arrested, chucked in jail.
So you don't go to the other town. But my point is, mate, right now in the UK, there's nothing that reflects how a lot of people choose to live their life, and there's no choice out of it. And if you go against what the government say, it's not even your neighbours, it's what the government say, they will fucking put you in prison, mate. And I think like that's absolutely disgusting, mate. Well, like taking someone's time away from them, why is murder so bad? Because you've taken someone's time and life away. Putting someone in a prison for a long stretch, mate, is a form of fucking murder. Because you have taken time away from someone that they are never going to get back. And you've taken it away a lot of the time for something that is absolutely fucking victimless. And I think it's disgusting, mate. And like, there are benefits to having a government in the UK. But this idea, like, look, mate, if I got fucking molested by a teacher and he was a great teacher, and I still had benefits from that teacher, I still got fucking raped by that teacher.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Victimless crime is a different kettle of fish.
But it's not a different kettle of fish, mate. Because those people who are in prison right now are in that fucking kettle. So like you're.
But in terms of what we were just talking about,
but that's something that we all agree on, mate. So this, it's by the by that a lot of us will agree on the same things, or there are those kind of crimes. Your eyes have got bigger on this copy, by the way. But like, the fact is, because we can say like, oh yeah, well yeah, that's different. It's victim crime. It ain't fucking different to people in prison right now, mate. They're fucking locked in prison. They've been torn away from their fucking families. They've probably never fully fucking get back into society. There's a very high, I think it's something like 75% of guys go on to reoffend, and a lot of the reason with that is they can't get jobs or anything like that. It's fucking disgusting, mate. And I'm fed up with these fucking hypocrites, basically, ruining people's lives. And then when they make their own, not just mistakes, when they make their own criminal behaviour and they are caught out, just slide. Bring it back, Tony Blair, mate. A motherfucker led us into a war, which, again, I'm not going to lie, enjoyed my tours. So I'm as guilty as anyone. I probably should do some time myself for it. But the fact is, he lied us into a war where hundreds of thousands of people could be killed. Never do a day in prison in his life. And then we've got guys who have had a fight who are in prison, and that has derailed in a lot of the ways of their life for something that is just what young lads do.
Agree with the Tony Blair sentiment and we are going to wrap this up in a minute after I make my point. No, I'm joking.
No, go.
But
He's
also not the only one to blame. He didn't do it single-handed.
He didn't, mate, and they should be fucking on the end of a rope as well. Yeah. I mean, in prison.
Yeah.
No, go on, mate. I want to hear your point, though.
No, that was it.
All right, well.
Right, let's wrap it up against the scoff. It's 7 o'clock.
Is it?
Yeah, 7 o'clock, yeah. Any final words? Are you going to run for MP?
No, mate, I don't believe in what we have. That would be like me going to join a church. That I don't believe in the religion. I don't believe in what we have right now. And I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I just know this ain't it.
Well, one of the ways it'll improve is definitely 100. And I mentioned campaign force earlier. It's not like a fucking plug. He hasn't told me to say it. I genuinely believe in one of the ways that we can improve the way we're governed. We can improve the way we can improve our fucking life in relationship to the government is by improving the quality of people in there, i.e. people who have a strong foundation, a strong moral foundation, a strong ethical foundation, and are less likely to be swayed from those than the current cohort, most of the current cohort in government now. That's what I think.
I kind of agree with you, but instead of doing that, I think we should just hang politicians.
On that bombshell. On that bombshell. But, mate, how do people find your publication?
No one's going to want to come up. How do they find it? Veteran State of Mind.
Your podcast, yeah, Veteran State of Mind.
Yeah, we have rants and bants on there, which is basically what today's turned into. And
mate, you just fucking brought this down a level it's not been at since your last
my last what?
Appearance.
My last appearance.
I'm joking.
The podcast.
It's very heated.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's just, look, at the end of the day, mate, like, the reason I get wound up about this stuff, mate, is because the same way, like I said, like, people's lives are literally being taken, and we're just letting it slide. And I just think that's fucking terrible, mate. Like, all of us joined, anyone listening to join the military, I think there was always a part of us who wanted to do good, right? Like, when we were in Iraq and Afghanistan and stuff, we did think that we were helping people out. And we did it to give people better lives. And the idea that we're just kind of being blind and just allowing people's lives to be ruined now because it doesn't affect us, or because, you know, you've got, the law or whatever. It's just such a cop-out, mate. And I just think that, like, we can have all the stuff that makes has made Britain one of the best places in the world to live, which I think it is. I do think it's one of the best places in the world to live, in all of history, as being the fact that people have rights, and as being the fact that we have democracy. And I think democracy, mate, doesn't just need to. I think democracy just needs to kind of be, especially in this age of technology. I don't think there's any reason that we can't kind of have democracy on a smaller scale, and that you have, as countries have their own rights. Countries aren't ruled by empires, and I don't think that we as individuals should be ruled by essentially an empire that's working out of London. You know, that us as individuals have our rights. And when it comes down to it, I always think, like, you know, how did I want to be treated in the military? Did I want to be shouted at and bullied into doing what I was told, or did I want to be given opportunity and being like, look, we're going to give you this opportunity to do that and rise to the occasion? And some people won't, mate, but to your point earlier, how do we progress as a society? Well, by treating people better and giving people the chance to grow into it. We're never going to have a society where people act better and act in people's interests and stuff if we're never going to give people the opportunity to rise to the occasion, mate. Yeah, I don't know. Should go and get some scoff. I want a cigar.
Right, let's rock and roll. Been a pleasure.
Cheers,
You got a website, yeah?
vsonpodcast.com. It's probably the easiest one to get to.
Right.
Cheers, mate.
Lunatic. That's it. Thank you for watching the H Hour podcast. If you're enjoying the podcast and you haven't already done so, please subscribe here, around about there. I'm hoping it's around about there where the button's going to appear. If it's not already appeared, you can also, if you want to listen to the podcast on your commute, for example, when you're driving, when it's not practical to watch the podcast, you can listen to it. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Google Podcasts, it's everywhere. It's on all of the common and not so common podcast apps. You can also, if you wish to do it, become a patron of H Hour. Becoming a patron of H Hour, you get access to all of the interviews before anyone else. So this interview with this guest was released days, if not weeks, before it was on release to the general public. And you also get access to exclusive interviews, which I do with each guest, that last about 5-10 minutes, that are based on questions that the patrons themselves of H Hour have chosen. And each guest, this one included, gets asked those questions before the main podcast starts getting recorded. It's like a pre-podcast interview, lasts about 10 minutes. And those interviews are really insightful, really enjoyable, nice and short, and they're only released to patrons. They never get released to the public. I don't know why I had a little stutter there. You also get access to a Discord community, exclusive Discord community only for patrons. You also get invited to a monthly Zoom call with myself and all the other patrons, and very often, most months, we have a previous podcast guest comes onto that Zoom call and has an exclusive Q&A with the patrons. In addition to this, there's monthly giveaways where I give away gifts to my Patreon supporters, and it's always, predominantly veteran-owned stuff. I'll go and buy veteran-owned apparel, veteran-owned product services, and I'll give them away to my Patreon supporters. And I'll also do exclusive invites for events, so you'll get freebie tickets to events. To become a patron of H Hour, go to patreon.com/HK Podcasts. I'm spelling Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/HK Podcasts. Hit become a patron. And I'll see you on the next Zoom Q&A if you do. Oh, you also get your name in the credits. Thanks for watching. I will catch you next time.